Hello, it's Scott Manley here with part 19 of Kerbal Spaceships, our serious business, and yeah, we are gonna go back to the moon here. So we still have that all-important contract to place a spacecraft, an unmanned spacecraft, on the surface of the moon. And to that end, we pretty much have a slightly different version of the rocket that we previously launched. It's basically identical in every way except for the final landing stage where I've made a few tweaks. So yeah, we don't need to watch this whole thing in great detail. Thanks to the magic of editing, we can just skip our way through the launch sequence, watching those boosters detach, rather balletically if you ask me. Anyway, I will admit that I have been rather slow to keep up to date with this series, in part because I've been dreading going back to this mission. As you know, we failed to land on the moon last time because we ran out of Delta V due to, well, it was probably due to the reaction control system consuming fuel. The redesigned stage uses linear RCS so that it's not going to fire to provide any extra thrust. And that has also cut down on the weight, giving me a few hundred meters per second Delta V extra, which bodes well. Now, it's still based on the Ranger core, and the Rangers, if you remember, did not actually land softly on the moon. They landed very hard. Okay, so we've got our launch, our orbital trajectory. We're now going to perform a translunar injection, and that should be fine. We're just making this, oh my goodness, get that out there. We want to get this as close as possible, so I'm going to shut down my main engines early this time. Last time I overcooked my engines, and I think that might have also cut down my Delta V budget just a little. So, bit of tweaking here, and that gets us close enough, so let's line ourselves up, zip over the surface. Look, there's the Mediterranean there. Greetings to all you people living in countries that, well, were once the seat of civilization as we knew it, unless you're Chinese. Okay, so I'm getting lined up for our escape burn here. It's one of the things we are going to have to do during this mission is manage our power consumption. That means turning the avionics on and off in these cores, right? When we're in deep space, we can turn the avionics off since we don't actually need to navigate. And that should save us enough battery power so we can safely touch down on the surface. Now, this spacecraft is based on the Ranger core. The Ranger program's main goals were to get close-up pictures of the moon. They weren't that interested in, say, landing softly. They would just kind of crash into the moon and get some photos on the way down. The spacecraft from NASA that did actually land on the moon first were the Surveyor spacecraft, and they were a wholly more high-tech bit of hardware than the Ranger. There were 9 Ranger missions, there were 7 Surveyor missions, and let's not forget the Lunar Orbiter missions, right? Who apparently they had run out of interesting code names, so they just decided to call their Lunar Orbiting Reconnaissance mission the Lunar Orbiter Program. I mean, while landing the Surveyor spacecraft was a pretty sexy and amazing achievement, the Lunar Orbiter program was really, really important because they were actually looking for landing sites for Apollo. Now, these spacecraft, they went into lunar orbit, there were 5 of them, and they would take pictures, and of course, in the 1960s, the camera technology was lousy compared to the high-quality CCDs that we have these days. What they did was they used traditional photographic film, and they had a developing lab on board. They developed the film on board the spacecraft and then slow scanned it for sending it back home. And then back home, of course, the scientist would literally print out the images, and I hear that they would like lay out the images on the floor of a hangar and then kind of climb up on top of a ladder and look down to figure out where the good landing sites were. I'm going to have no such luxury, of course. I have no idea where I'm going to land this thing. I'm just going to take the first landing site opportunity that I have. But first of all, I have to get into lunar orbit. So we're transferring towards the target, and I need to bring my periloon down. So we're going to make a small adjustment using the reaction control thrusters again. And that means, well, this is always very fun working this kind of geometry here. Of course, the correct thing to do, well, okay, so you use very small changes here to try and bring the periaps down, and the hard part is figuring out where it actually is. So what you really should do is, if you can select it, if you can select this, there, we'll go over there actually. Yes, focus view. So from here, you can try to get the exact geometry. So this shows you how the thing would fly past the moon. And I just want that thing to be as close as possible, because the closer we are, the faster we're moving, the more of the Oberth effect we actually get. And there, that's working nicely. The hard part with this always is just figuring out the camera geometry to make sure that you can adjust your little maneuver node at the same time as seeing where the periaps or the periloon actually is. So we're going to swing past that, and hopefully it's only going to take us a very, very, very tiny amount of delta V. We can do the entire maneuver using just the tiny onboard reaction control system. And that's the best way to do it, because it's the most precise, the smallest amount of thrust we have. We still have this giant main engine for most of the navigation. And getting 3 meters per second out of that, or, you know, getting only 3 meters per second delta V out of that is going to require a bit of messing around. So here we go, enabling my avionics, getting us prepared to navigate, and then start to rotate the spacecraft towards the maneuver marker. Anyway, I did mention the Lunar Orbital Reconnaissance Program. It's worth mentioning that NASA wasn't certain that was going to work, because, you know, it's a spacecraft, it had a lot of moving parts, it had this chemistry lab and everything on board. So they actually worked with the National Reconnaissance Office, you know, the spy satellite people, to build a camera that would be flown inside an Apollo spacecraft. So if the like automatic satellites had failed, NASA was literally prepared to send astronauts to orbit the moon with a camera, because they figured that having a person there would make it a lot easier to, you know, figure out the problems and everything. But in the end, the Lunar Orbital Reconnaissance missions worked perfectly, and they didn't need this. There we go, we're getting our orbital insertion set up here. We're just going to burn enough to put us inside the sphere of influence, and then we'll do one more sweep around, adjust our periaps, and then finally go in for the landing. Look at how close the moon is. We're actually flying over the North Pole here, see that? That's probably not the most efficient approach I could have flown, but it's gonna be enough. I have faith. I am crossing my fingers and toes, well, at least until I need to operate the controls. I'm I'm operating the controls with my toes, but I am going to be using my fingers. So there you go, a brief capture burn there, obviously done with crossed fingers. And then once we're up at Apoaps, we're going to fly all the way out, about a day out, and then we're going to use the reaction control systems to bring the periaps down to about 13 to 15 kilometers, right? And now we are coming in for our final approach. And this was actually one of the hardest things I've done in a long time in Kerbal Space Program. The hardest problem here is that there's a 1.3 second delay, which technically isn't correct, because the round trip signal time is like 2.5 seconds, because the signal has to go back to Earth, and then it has to come, whatever inputs I do in response to that should go all the way to the moon. I think remote tech doesn't do that. Anyway, landing on a full-scale moon with a very tiny delta V budget was really hard, so here's me actually doing it. Okay, let's land this sucker. And engine firing. Now, very quickly, we need to start enabling our tanks. We need to bring the hydrazine online in the probe. Now you see, I like how my delta V estimate is increasing. That's exactly what I want. Okay, now, just gotta keep this. We are kind of pointing downwards here. Vertical speed is pretty negative. 40 meters per second. Okay. Get this engine. We need to bring this nose up just a bit because we don't want to be accelerating towards the surface. Ah, man, 1.5 second delay is awful. And now we're going upwards. Vertical speed is increasing. Bring it down, bring it down. 14, 13, 10. We're now really going upwards here. Come on! Bring it back to the horizon. Back to the... now we're going upwards. We're supposed to be going down. What noopte is flying this? Oh, wait, that would be me. That would be me. Okay, but we're going to do this. At least the vertical speed isn't too high. 13 meters per second. Yeah, this is just really... This is really hard to do. Okay, so we are definitely on a bound orbit. We are going to land it one way or another. We have an impact contract and we have a soft land contract. We know that we will complete at least one contract. Okay, we've got about 10 seconds left on this descent stage and then we're onto the final terminal landing stage. Things are going fast. We're down below 1,000 meters per second and we have 1,500 meters per second of delta V left in this stage. Okay, now I'm going to let my vertical speed kind of fall down a little here because we don't need to be going upwards so much. Okay, so our vertical speed is still positive. I'm just going to bring it over and let gravity start pulling us down. We still need to kill a lot of lateral velocity, so that's not such an issue here. Vertical speed is doing fine. And we're below 1,500 meters per second of delta. Oh, wow, we get tons of spare delta V. Oh, hallelujah! Where were you last time? Okay, this is so much slower. The amount of thrust this thing is producing is a lot less than I had expected, but we have the fuel capacity. Okay, at 20 meters per second sink rate. And we are... Now wait a second. Our altitude is about 5 or 6 kilometers. So I just got to do some mental calculations here, which is really hard to do while talking. Okay. And the sink rate is starting to get a little high. I should probably correct that a little. There we go. I said we probably need to bring this up a little... 1,200 meters per second. We're really bringing the velocity down. Okay, come on. Bring this up. 70 meters per second downwards. I did not mean to let that get so hard. Oh, man, okay. Need to start killing that vertical speed. We are 2 kilometers up. Okay, we need to really work hard. I'm gonna crash this thing. I've screwed this up big time. I've totally screwed it up big time. 30 degrees and our vertical speed is just dropped below 70 meters per second. So that is like 20 seconds to impact. No! No! I'm not going to let this happen. 50 meters per second. Okay, that's still 20 seconds to impact. That's good. Our impact time is not decreasing. 700 meters, 35. We're still 20 seconds to impact. 20 seconds to impact. Oh, yes. I'm just dividing my altitude by my vertical speed, and I think we have control over this again. Oh my god, that was a disaster. That was... Oh, my heart rate is going crazy. I'm gonna have to check this. Okay, 20 meters per 200 meters per second lateral. Okay, so now I'm just gonna keep firing this engine and turning it on and off to try and control my descent here. So we're gonna watch as my vertical speed just kind of... If it starts going too positive, then we'll turn off the thruster. So let the vertical speed drop negative, and then we're gonna fire our engine again. That's what we're gonna do. See that? Engine for a couple of seconds, and then we'll stop. Thank God for the local stability control. The probe isn't smart enough to lend itself, but it is smart enough to be able to keep itself pointing in the right direction. Okay, vertical speed is just hanging out around 2-3 meters per second. And now we're down below 100 meters per second. Remember, at this point, this was where we ran out of fuel, and we have tons of fuel left. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I can sense this landing is going to happen. I just need to make sure it's a soft one. So this is the hard part here, because we need to kind of transition to vertical descent. I'm just going to try to get this thing vertical before I pick up too much vertical speed. Okay. And I'm just going to do that. There we go. There we go. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. I'm just going to turn the engine on and off and try to maintain vertical speed. We want the vertical speed to be sufficiently low that we don't break this. This is not designed. It wasn't designed for landing. This probe body. There's no legs or anything. But as long as the probe body survives, that's all I care about. Now there we go. Turn it on and off. Turn it on and off. Just give it a kick in the butt. Kick in the butt. And kick in the butt. And kick in the butt. And how close is it? How close is it? Kick in the butt. Kick in the... Oh, there we go. Yes. Yes. And we have all the science. Quick. Quick. Get all this science. Collect all this science. Get it all in there and start transmitting this back home. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That was just hard. Quick, 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 click, 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 click. Click. Oh, yes. Now transmitting stuff home. I can see the data being and we're starting to roll down the hill. This could be bad, because if we pick up too much speed, we might destroy the spacecraft before we are transmitted all the data. Okay, I'm just bringing up my watch. Oh my god, my heart rate was up to like 110 there from sitting down. So this is clearly one of the more stressful things I've done in a long time. No, it's good. Don't go too fast. It's just rolling down the hill. Just roll down the hill. It's gonna crash soon. It's good. Oh, no, we've done it. We've transmitted all the science. All the science has successfully escaped the moon. Doesn't matter if this is doomed now, because the science has escaped. The moon's gravity can no longer hold this science hostage, because we have placed a spacecraft on the surface. We have surveyed it for all it's worth, and we have returned that data to the scientists back at base. Speaking of back at base, we have another project that we have started. Can you guess what it is yet? Well, you'll find out soon enough. So, obviously don't have enough time to cover this in this episode, because I decided that I wanted to relate the victory in agonizing detail. No, this is a spacecraft which is called the docking target, because we're going to actually try docking. Look, it has a little docking port there. It's only capable of transferring fuel. So this is just kind of a dumb spacecraft which is going to sit in orbit and have some fuel, and then we're going to dock another one together, and hopefully we shall complete a contract and we shall get rewards, and we shall see that in the next episode. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.